Hello and welcome back to Mastering Flat Design. One thing that you'll see a lot in flat web designs is large line icons. And when I say line icons, I'm talking about icons or illustrations that are just made up of the outlines of whatever the object is. So in this video, we're going to draw an icon for our web and graphic design section here, and that icon is going to be a large computer monitor. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is I want to take all of the web and graphic text and background, and I want to group all of that together separately from the video production section so that we can keep all of our layers neatly organized. So here we have the web and graphic design text layer and the lorem ipsum text layer that goes with it. So we'll grab both of those and then drag them down just above this rectangle 2 layer here so that these 3 layers are right on top of each other. They're all for the same section. So then we'll use the keyboard shortcut we've used before to group these together. Command, Shift, Option, and click on this folder right here, or again on a PC it would be Control, Shift, Alt, and click on that folder. And then we'll call it Web Graphic Design. So we'll group all of those together there, and then we'll grab the 3 layers here that represent the video production section, use the same keyboard shortcut to group those together, and we'll call it Video Production. So then inside the web graphic design group, we're going to create a new layer, and on that layer we're going to start building our monitor. So we're going to start with the rounded rectangle tool. And again, this is going to be a line icon. There are going to be no fills in this icon. It's going to be all strokes. So I'm going to turn off the fill here. And for the stroke, I'm going to choose white. And for this particular part of the monitor, I want it to be a 3-point stroke with a radius of 6 pixels. So let's start by clicking and dragging it out until we get somewhere around the size that we're looking for. So we'll make it a little bit taller here, a little bit narrower, somewhere around 188 by 116. That looks good. V to switch to the move tool, and we can drag it up here to roughly to the center. In fact, we can go ahead and perfectly align it to the center by selecting both of those layers and then clicking up here to align horizontal centers. Then we'll go back to this rounded rectangle layer and move on from there. So I'm going to put a smaller rounded rectangle inside this one. So I'm going to create a new layer above it, and then we'll go back to the rounded rectangle tool. This one is going to have a stroke of just 1 point. So we'll change that to 1 point. And the radius here, let's cut that in half to 3 pixels. And we'll click and drag that out inside the outer rectangle. So this one's going to be about 170 by maybe 88 pixels. V to switch to the move tool, nudge it up and over until you have it looking like it needs to look, and that looks pretty good. So then we just need the base of the monitor and we're done. So the base is going to be 2 shapes combined into one. I'm going to start with a rounded rectangle that has the same roundness as the outer rectangle that we drew here. So what we can do is just grab that layer, Command J to make a copy of it, nudge it down a little bit, Command T to transform it, and resize it like so. Now this will only work, resizing it this way will only work if you're using Photoshop CC and dealing with a live shape, a shape where you can still change the roundness of the corners and things like that. If you don't have a live shape here, then when you try to resize it like this, it's going to skew the corners so that they don't look good. So make sure that you do have a live shape. If you're using Photoshop CS6 or earlier, then you probably just want to draw a new shape instead of copying and resizing this one. So let's take a look at that. Let's round these corners a little bit less than they are right now. Let's bring that down to maybe 4 pixels. That'll sharpen up those corners just a little bit, and that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to add another shape to it. This new shape is just going to be a regular rectangle. And for now, I'm going to draw it on its own layer, and then we'll join the 2 layers together. So I'm going to draw it at the same width as the shape that we just drew, just so that we have it. This is just another way basically to center it. So we'll draw it about right there. We can zoom in a little bit, Command T to transform it, and I want it to be the same width as the shape below it. And then once it's the same width, we can hold on to Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, and then click and drag one of these ends in, and you'll see that it stays centered, like so. And then we'll just drag this part up just a pixel or so until it's even with the shape above it. Enter to apply those changes, and then we'll grab that layer and the layer just below it. Make sure that the two layers you're grabbing are these two shapes that we just drew, and then Command E or Control E on a PC to join those two layers together, and you'll see that it treats it like one shape. Command 1 to zoom back out to 100%, V to switch to the Move tool, and there we go, there's our monitor. Now I'm not real crazy about the way the base of the monitor looks. It looks a little too tall down here, so we can hit A to switch to the Direct Selection tool, and then click and drag around the bottom corners here so that just these 4 bottom vertices are selected, or anchor points, and then nudge those anchor points up a few pixels. Click outside to deselect it, and that looks a little better. I like the way that looks. So there's our monitor. So we can just grab those 3 layers that represent our monitor and then nudge them into place, nudge it down a little bit until it's where we need it to be. And then we'll just group those 3 layers together into a group called monitor. And there we go. So in the next video, we'll jump over to the other side and we'll create our icon for a video camera. So this one's going to be a little bit more complicated than the monitor we just created, but we'll get to that in the next video. For now, let's just save our file. We'll save it as flatdesign10.psd, and we'll move on with the next video. Thank you for watching.